Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Running It Back. That was difficult. I saw your eyes, Jamerson. You were like, "Oh no, she's messing up right away."
I've been there.
My name is MissHarvey, and today I'm joined with two amazing co-hosts, Jamerson as well as Sapphire. How is everyone?
I'm
You guys
doing
doing good?
good. I'm excited to be here and talk about some Valorant.
Yeah, I'm super
Some
excited.
Valorant.
Yeah, I
As
don't
you can
often get
see,
to talk like observing, so like I'm really stoked to have Sapphire here.
yeah, me too, especially since because of your experience, but it's not only because you're one of the best, if not the best observer ever, but it's also because you play a lot of Valorant and you kind of played way before everyone ever touched the game. So it's also quite awesome to have you on board. Today we have a great show. There's a lot of things that happened, and I need to be honest with you both. I haven't touched the new release. I didn't have time. I didn't have time, but we're gonna get that covered in a little bit. Is that new earrings, Jamerson?
New for people at home, but I've had these for like almost a decade now.
Ah, they're so cute. I like them.
Very nice.
They're very, very nice. Okay, so let's jump right into it. First of all, we need to talk a little bit about Heather Sapphire. For those who don't know, she is a legend when it comes to esports. You're one of the very few that actually started Counter-Strike before me. So why don't we start with the beginning? Heather, when did you discover esports?
Sure. So, yeah, I started playing Counter-Strike in 1999 when it came out. Of course, at that time I would tell no one, like super embarrassing gamer. I was playing sports and but my brother would have his over and they'd start landing in the basement. And they'd start winning a couple $100 here and there in the weekend. Oh, this is kind of cool. We a couple years later, after just playing it casually, we packed up our family car and we drove down to Dallas and we went to the CPL. And my brother and I were sure that we were really going to make something of ourselves here. We got absolutely smashed, just destroyed by, it was actually Natu, who's an owner of Ents. He's still around today, and D Skyline, a Finnish team. We got destroyed, but watching the American teams there and cheering them on and feeling all patriotic, I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Esports is pretty fun. And that's just where it all snowballed, and started playing more, trying to work as much as I could in the in the industry. So did a lot with ESL as they were starting to grow, helping with social and different events, and I started writing about esports. And there's no way to prove this, but I'm convinced I was one of the first people to start like tweeting from events too. Started that, and
I feel like you probably were back in the ESEA days, right?
back in the
Really
ESA
early?
days, because I had switched. I don't know if it was a good decision or not, but I had switched to Source when a lot of people are still on 1.6. I'm like, well, no one's writing about Source. Come on, it's a good game too. So I'd start going to events and tweeting about it there. But I'd be in and out from playing competitively. For those that don't know, Steffi and I played on a team together too, UB United, and we won a ESWC World Championship in 2012. So that was
Yep.
very exciting.
Yep.
And then after that, I was like, yeah, I'm done playing. Just done. And then a year later, my friend Emily said, hey, we're going to Paris for ESWC. And I'm like, oh no, who are these girls? I don't know. I don't want to go in and finish last place. And hey, it turns out they're pretty good. And we ended up finishing second place. So I was revived a bit and played a little longer. I eventually finally really did stop playing competitively. But my team that I was playing with, Emily and team, came over to Dignitas. I came along with, and a few role changes later, I'm now the VP of talent at Dignitas. So that essentially means I oversee our social media. I help our players build their brands. And then I also do observing. Oh yeah, observing.
Yeah, you kind of do that.
Yeah, how that I missed that. Observing's been a lot of fun. 2015, Derek Trung, an old CS 1.6 player, said, "Hey, we need an observer for ESL 1 Cologne qualifiers." What is observer? I don't know what that is. Turns out I'm actually pretty decent about it because I've watched a lot of demos in my life, and for the last 5 years, well, of course not this year, sadly, I've been traveling the globe probably almost every single weekend to observe. An observer is essentially an in-game director for. I do obviously focus on FPS titles, so I'm the person that guides what you see as a viewer, and the casters talk on top of it. So I've done most of the majors, ESLs, E-leagues. I don't know. The list goes on, but it's been a lot of fun. And as of a couple months ago, I've started doing this for Valorant as well. Obviously, there's a little room to grow there in terms of what the Valorant experience looks like. The observing experience looks like in Valorant. But there's probably a lot of exciting changes we're going to get to talk about today. So, that was a lot, but yeah, I've done it all, and it's super fun. And I'm excited to talk about Valorant. Like you said, I've gotten actually a few years heads up on this game. I've got to play for about 4 years.
Okay, Jamerson, did you take notes? Because we're about to quiz you on Heather's life.
Definitely took notes. Definitely took notes. I've got it all down.
First of all, do you know what CPL is?
Yes,
so we
of course.
can see. Okay, good.
okay, there, good.
You're good. We're talking the same. Heather, you're giving yourself short. You actually competed last weekend in the Boomer.
Oh yeah, I did. Yes, Steph and I played in the Boomer Bowl. It's only for us old people. It could have been better, but we did it all right. We did all right. There's a lot of like 1.6 pros that came back from the grave. I can't believe it.
Yeah,
but
it's being nice because I was awful. I was quite awful, but the rest of the girls were pretty good. We almost won a couple of the games. I think we won one, but yeah. It was good. It was good. I liked it a lot. Okay. Before we jump into today's topic, Jamerson, you have any questions for Heather? To be honest, there's so much to talk about. She there's so many things that I wish we dove in, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of a chance.
I'm definitely just looking forward to being able to talk a little bit more observing about the observer tools that are possibly coming out or things that you want to see. So I'm going to hold my questions for that.
Okay. There's one question I want to ask. If you've played Valorant for the last 4 years, how crazy were the changes? Like,
yeah, I mean, I obviously, I can't say obviously too much what it used to look like, but yeah, I've been excited about it from the start in that like the shooting in particular always felt natural for me, and that's what I worried most about this, in that when I switch between different FPS games, if it doesn't feel like Counter-Strike, like it's out the door for me. I like the games where you're rewarded for your aim. Takes a high, it's a low barrier to entry, but incredibly high skill to master. So from the start, it's always felt right, which is great. But just to see it just visually come to life and like kind of this whole universe, and I didn't really expect a lot of the agents just to really kind of fall in love with their personalities and the voice lines. A lot of those things, I wasn't necessarily had the access to see a while back. So seeing all this excitement come to life, and you just fall in love with these agents and you kind of feel their personalities, I think it's just super exciting. Something we just didn't have in Counter-Strike. So I love that it's taking the best of things like Overwatch and League of Legends, where you love their characters, yet the skill and mastery and the reaction time and the teamwork from Counter-Strike. It's best of both worlds, and love that coming together.
Your love for Valorant is making you love the game more. I'm not gonna lie, you just love the game so much. All right.
I didn't know that I would, but yeah, I just love it.
Let's jump into some news. Jamerson, did you want to say something? Sorry, I kind of cut you.
Oh, no, I just wanted to say, like, I also agreed. Like, playing a lot of FPS, like, I was playing in PC bongs in, like, back in 2002, 2001, a lot of Counter-Strike when I was, like, 12, 13 years old. And so coming from that background, like I completely understand Sapphire when you're like, oh yeah, I want to make sure, if the game doesn't have like similar shooting to it, it doesn't feel good to me, right? And so coming into Valorant, like you already had the parallels. Like this gun feels like this gun, like the recoil's kind of similar as well, and just felt good. It felt right. So I'm absolutely in the same boat as you right there.
When you say PC bong, did you live in Korea when you were young?
I lived in Koreatown, which was basically the same thing. We had PC bongs, and so yeah, I'd be able to take like $10 and then like play for like 5-8 hours, and it was great.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's jump into news. I see our producer already has that little fiery news. Oh, this way. That little fiery news. First of all, First Strike was finally announced for North America, and the qualifiers are starting on October 26th. So if I'm not mistaken, it's in the middle of the week. Next week, yes, on Monday. So what do we think about First Strike? Are we excited for it? I know I'm excited for it, especially Nene. The competition is so fierce.
I'm super excited. I actually love that no one's getting an invite for it. Like this is a new game. Let the qualifiers speak for themselves. Obviously, there's probably going to be some upsets that we don't expect, and that's why there's multiple qualifiers, I think. But super excited that Riot is investing heavily into a major event. I so wish this could be international. Obviously, there's different qualifiers throughout the world, and we're not going to see the best of the best play each other, but hopefully one day. But I think this is a really exciting start.
Yeah, for first steps, I definitely like it. I don't know if the 128 team limit is like large enough for what I'd imagine is like a really large interest, and especially for teams to like really get in. But I'm super excited for it.
So, excuse my naiveness. If there's only 128, does that mean when they open their registration, if they're not open or if they're open already, it's like whoever joins first, and that's it?
For the most part, though, you do have to be a Mortal 1 rank, either this split and last split, or maybe it's just one or act.
Oh,
But
wow.
there is a barrier to entry, in that you do have to have that higher rank. So obviously I work with Dignitas, and we help our players sign up, and they had to submit all their ranks and everything. So there's some level of barrier to entry.
Oh, okay, that reassures me. I didn't want like top teams not to be able to attend because like a bunch of rookie are trying to give it a shot. But okay, that's really good. And like you mentioned, I'm excited for the upsets. I'm excited, especially we're gonna talk about it eventually later today, but with the tournament that we had last weekend, the Renegade Nursery Gamer one, we see that honestly NA is up to grab. We might have seen like a couple of teams stand out, but anyone can be beaten. So the First Strike is going to be quite awesome. I'm excited for it. Okay, it looks like we want to jump into okay, you know what, Heather? Do you think there's going to be any new tools for this event that you heard of?
Well,
that face.
Can't say much, but I imagine obviously this is a premiere event. They rolled out, which we'll talk about soon. There's a number of changes. 2 weeks ago that's already made a drastic improvement.
Okay. We'll talk about it really soon. Okay, so let's recap that event I was teasing about earlier. Jamerson, did you have the chance to watch a little bit of the games?
I watched some of the games. I made sure, of course, to watch the grand finals, but like there were some interesting things, right? Like Ninja's team like playing pretty decently throughout. But finally getting to see a lot of the tier 2 teams actually go up against the Sign teams was very eye-opening, I would say. And like you said, it definitely seems like, best in NA. It's like it's a title that like it's pretty firmly held, I would say, by Sentinels, but like a lot of people are coming for it to come swing at them.
Yeah, I still feel like Sentinel has been, I mean, there's been a little bit of a break, right, in the last month in tournaments. So although Sentinel was kind of at the top, followed by TSM pretty closely, they haven't been playing in these little tournaments. Like if we look at the playoffs here, or if we had the roster a little bit earlier, we saw that there's no NRG, there's no TSM, and there's no Sentinels. But look who we have. T1 is here. So T1 finally deciding to play these quote unquote lower profile tournament to get some experience. And we go back to the bracket, they didn't even make it to the finals. So they do need that grind at the moment. For me, they lost to Immortals, who ended up being our top 2 finalists, but still, 2-0 is still not a great showing considering all the hype that we thought about T1 if you look back like 6 months ago.
Yeah, I think particularly for T1, it's kind of odd for them because they're slotting in that new player, right? You got Spiderin, formerly Saya player, and he's making that transition from Overwatch on over to Valorant, but he's also having to also deal with, I would say, language barrier. I don't know how good his English is, but as a Korean player slotting into a North American team, I still have to commend him for what he was doing throughout the tournament.
Were you able to catch any of that action, Heather?
Yeah, I did. In particular, I watched the Moon Raccoons versus Andbox game. I hadn't expected to tune in, and then I saw the tweets that they had beat Gen G. I'm like, okay, who are these guys? And I thought they have an awesome name and logo, by the way. But I thought they did pretty decent, and that's what makes these events exciting. I imagine they become a team very similar to Morning Light, where their roster is just going to get picked apart by the tier 1 orgs. But you need that in the scene. You need those essentially kind of farm teams to find new talent, and the big names are going to start picking them up. But super exciting for those players. I thought they had a great performance.
I couldn't agree more with what you said. That was a great summary of what's happening in the Valorant scene and what's not happening in CS. Not that I want to talk about CS here. We're missing these farm teams here and that new blood kind of getting excited. So it's great to see it happen in Valorant so soon, especially in NA. What do you think, Heather, about the T1's kind of deflated balloon that we had from, I want to say, the beginning of Valorant up to now?
Yeah, it's certainly disappointing when everyone was so excited about this roster coming together, and they haven't gotten a big win for a while. I think they intentionally skipped out on a few events, which now TSM and Sentinels are kind of doing the same things to protect their strats. I think they know they have something incredibly innovative, and they don't want to show their cards yet until first strike. So I think T1 might have done the same thing. Obviously, now they just need to get their reps up and play in more events. Those guys have proven time and again to be incredibly successful, some of the best in the world. So I think they'll get there, just taking time.
Jamerson, that just realized I forgot 100 Thieves too. Someone told me in chat. They're not at this event too, right? If I'm not mistaken, or were they? Anyway, I'm excited to see Energy and 100 Thieves jump into that gauntlet. Let's call it the NA gauntlet, because it is a gladiator kind of space right now. I do believe that a lot of money, a lot of hype is up to grab. So this was pretty great. Can we talk a little bit about Andbox finishing first year with their roster? Android, Ye, Seb, Poach, and Warden. Warden actually played. I think also Boy was playing that day. It's exciting. I think that Android and Ye, like, switching to Valorant, for me, they're still, especially Android, he's still really young. He's still able to hit his prime, I believe, in a completely new game. He did the transition potentially a little bit later than all of the other stars, and he was never really that kind of like Nitro or Steel in CS. So it's probably why he's not kind of looked at the moment for these top tiers players, but team. But look at him winning that event with a bunch of friends.
Yeah, good for them. And they've done what is, I think, the most exciting thing about Valorant is pairing Counter-Strike players with Fortnite players, essentially, and Counter-Strike players with Overwatch players. Poach coming over from Fortnite. I think Anbox grabbed him from Team Liquid he was on before, and I love that they're just finding the best talent across these multiple games. And yeah, Android always kind of flies under the radar, and sometimes that's better than being expected to win all the time. It's sometimes better to be the underdog.
Yeah, and the way that like Anbox did it too, like they only dropped one map throughout the tournament. The way that they were winning the maps were pretty convincingly, especially in like the finals. Even though like the second map was a little bit closer, like their style and their tempo just felt really good. It was really fun and refreshing to watch.
Yeah, and I like to support my fellow Canadians, so I'm definitely rooting for Android, as you can see on this little image. Go Canada! So, so is Nbox actually in org? Let me just Google that so I don't say.
So
They are, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so they're picked up by an org. Okay, so
Yeah, I think they're affiliated with the New York Excelsior
right.
Overwatch team. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I actually really like their name. So it's quite awesome to see that they're already affiliated with some people. On that same vein, let's go into news, but roster changes. We had 2 weeks ago, our last episode number 3, we had 2 of the China and Gin or China Win. Is that how you pronounce it, Jamerson? Yeah. I know I kept pronouncing it wrong last week. Very foreign. China Wing, 2 of them were on the show last week. They were great guests, and they couldn't tell us who picked them up, but now is the time to talk about it. They were picked up by Equinox Esports, and I looked a little bit into it, and it seems like they're the first team Equinox picked up, and it's an Oakland esports organization that was just launched with this Valorant acquisition.
Apparently Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oh, did I say Oakland instead of Oklahoma?
It's okay. It's got the OKC in the website. It's an understandable mistake.
My American cities is said across, could it be more further on the map too? So Oklahoma, not Oakland, guys. But yeah, I love their logo. Let me just say that. I was looking at their website. It does look more like it does look very business professional. So I wonder who's behind it. I couldn't find much information, but also didn't like poke too much. So I don't know if you guys know more about it, but I'm really happy and excited for the China Win boys.
I mean, they're definitely happy about it. I again, like you said, I tried to poke around, and it was a little bit more difficult to find like the information about like the founders and like what the org is really about. There really isn't much on their website. Is it just one of those like really quick startups, like esports startups? They tout that they have 50 years of combined experience in esports, higher education, marketing, and cinema industries. And it's kind of weird to like lump all this together and be like, we have 50 years of experience. I mean, I worry because, we all see this happen in esports, especially a new budding esport where someone's like, I'm a CEO of an esports org. And like they start up like an LLC, and you worry. And especially because like D-Cop is like one of the homies. So I just want to make sure like he's being done right. But so I don't know. It's
at least
as happy as I want to be, I'm very reserved about all of this.
At least they can't be picked apart right away because they're gonna be under contract for a little bit. All right, Heather.
Exactly. Yeah, that's you'd think, which is good for them. It protects the players. The org maybe gets something back if some of their players go to a bigger name. But I think the city-based model can be kind of cool. Like if you're from Oklahoma, you immediately have a team to root for, and Nbox kind of does the same because they're close ties to New York. So I think that's kind of exciting. Obviously, not the most popular place for esports, but Dallas is 4 hours away or so, and that's a big home for esports. Maybe it'll work out for them.
For sure. And in those uncertain times in COVID, I'm sure they are welcoming the support. And like you said, Jamerson, Equinox doesn't sound or feel legitimate yet, but hopefully they do become as we get to know more and more about them. And you got a little bit of a tease from our production here because we clicked on the guild as well, which is David's Beckham's team. Header, if you didn't know, I do not like their team name. I frankly quite hate it. But it is what it is. It's the guild partially owned by David Beckham. That's what their Twitter says. But they picked up a Valorant team, the Swedish Kings, Draken, Yasin Lamari, Bunkar, Leo Jennerson, and Goefal. I only know Draken. Isn't Draken a NIP? Used to be a NIP player in Counter-Strike, right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, good. I didn't even know he switched, to be honest, to Valorant. So I think this could be a good team. I really like Draken.
I think it's an exciting roster. If you haven't watched the announcement video, it's amazing. It is absolutely amazing.
It's so good.
Okay, I'll watch it.
We should like take 3 minutes to like let Steph
We really
watch
should.
It,
okay.
So
We're ready apparently. Okay. Oh my god, the guild. I don't like it, guys.
Brothers!
Oh no sound.
We're almost there.
I hope you guys are sad.
We've answered the call. And we go to fight. And we fight for guild! For guild! Cut! Director! Powell! We said the boat, not me. Thank you, Lisa. We said the boat. Please, I want to go home, guys. I want to go home. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, look at Leo, my brother Leo, for example. Like, he's 16. You put a beard on his face. He looks like Shia LaBeouf, whatever it's called, from Transformers. And my brother William, like a wildling from Game of Thrones. Please, why did you put me through this? And Lord Mayor in town. We have him on the boat as well. Nice. Honestly, I'm Bonker. Well, he could be in Vikings. I get that. And I do kind of look flawless in this. I get that too. But honestly, I'm just tired. Why can't we just run highlights like the rest of the teams? Honestly, just run them. Give me a ladder and run.
One enemy remaining. Let's go.
Never mind, it's my new favorite team.
Yep. Like the initial like logo, the G or whatever, it looks like someone, I don't know, made it out of like MS Paint or something, or like
I know.
but that video was lit. Like that's honestly the best announcement video I've seen in esports in a really long time. I can't even like think of something that's like even close. And like hands up, like just straight up, like round of applause, standing ovation. Yassine like killed it. Like initially during the announcement, I was like, who's this actor they got for this? Like he's like killing it right now. It's like, wait, he's actually one of the players. This is insane.
Yeah,
Shia LaBeouf looking over here.
I know. I have like nothing to say. I outside the fact that I really dislike their name and logo. Now I'm like a big fan. I'm gonna definitely look more into that team. Let's go. I need to wrap up this segment. I don't know what else to say. This is so good.
Yeah, I mean I don't know how many tens of millions of dollars this team has gotten in investment so far, but yeah, money well spent on this video, and I think our eyes are all turned their way now.
From Heather, you also work for an org. I work for CLG, for those who don't know, because I never really talked about it on the show. But what we could do with that announcement money, I wish we could do that for every amount.
Yeah, exactly, right?
I feel you on that one. Okay, Jamerson, you kind of teased us on T1's new roster edition as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So Spider is kind of insane, and I don't think a lot of at this point, no one's surprised that Overwatch players are able to kind of make this leap, especially when they're DPS mains coming on over, and then they're going into like entry roles. Like a lot of them are doing so well right now. We're looking at Sonatra, and then of course Spider getting picked up, formerly Saya player, and. While this wasn't the best performance out of T1 this weekend, like I said, I think slotting in a new player from a different game with the language barrier, he performed pretty well for what the situation was.
And I don't know what you think about that, Header, but the language barrier is usually pretty big at the start, but T1 seems to be investing for the long term. And if you look at Counter-Strike, players like NBK, that now completely plays in English and even simple learn English through gaming. I remember the first time I talked to Scream, he couldn't even say one word in English. It was only French, and now he's been playing on an international roster for a little bit, especially in Valorant. So I think that, like you mentioned, Jamerson, at the start, it might be a little bit of an issue, but they're going to find, my hope is that they're going to find their groove and he's going to learn fast.
Yeah, especially, I mean, T1 is really known for their Korean League of Legends team, so I'm sure this is nothing they're unfamiliar with, and giving people crash course on speaking English and communicating with their teammates.
If you can learn a game fast, you can learn a language fast. Let me say.
Yeah, the biggest issue was that like he came from an all Korean roster, right? And so like he might not have the same kind of experience. Of course, communicating in English, but looking at the players as well across T1s, and also just looking at the history of Counter-Strike, where you didn't have a very prolific representation of Koreans in the scene. And so you can't imagine that like AZK and Brax have that much experience, like having to kind of calm for a Korean player. And so this is one where I think the language barrier is a bit more exasperated than other situations. But I still have faith in Saya player. Just the kid's absolutely insane.
It's funny you say that. It's so true. In CS, kind of in the last decade, like Korean teams kind of disappeared, while in other games they kind of became so dominant. I wonder why. There's probably a study here to think about why are Koreans so not into Counter-Strike, but they're into other shooters in other games. But I'm just gonna leave you guys that in your brain to think about, because that's something to think about. Okay, so let's jump right into the patch notes. There's a couple of things that we knew were coming up, especially, for example, the update to the Immortal and Radiant rank, where you have to win or lose to go up or down ranks, which we talked about last week. The competitive queue as well, we already knew that was coming. What can you guys tell me about the deathmatch changes?
Well, there is they've expanded the number of players. I think it's up to 14 right now.
Okay,
which is good, because it sometimes it just running around, I can't find anyone.
Yeah.
I think the best change they made is, obviously before it used to ping on the map every 1 second where people are, and people are just staring at the radar. So I'm like, okay, I gotta start the radar too if I want to get any frags. I'm glad that's gone away with, and it's more what you can expect from a game. Obviously, you're reacting to what your sounds and we're expecting someone to be, instead of all the pings on the radar. So I think that's exciting. I believe the time is also increased too, which means you get some more XP for the time that you spend, which is good for your battle passes.
Yeah, and I can see that it's now up to 40 kills instead of 30. And safer spawns, which if I compare it to my experience in Counter-Strike, it wasn't so bad. It was pretty rare to get spawn killed compared to CS, but it still kind of happened. But they helped with that updated spawning algorithm to encourage safer spawns. So for those players who never experienced the CSGO that match spawn killing, you're probably feeling quite awesome with that. But I was already kind of happy with the spawning. It wasn't so bad in Valorant. And more XP, like you mentioned, it's now 900 instead of 500 for deathmatch. So I appreciate it. I really like that deathmatch was just 6 minutes, 30 kills. So I don't know if I like that it's longer. But it's not too much longer. But still, I like that it was kind of short. So if you wanted to just like jump in, do a little bit of that match, and then do something else, it was pretty easy. Now you have to invest an extra 3 minutes. I hope that you guys heard my French there. Extra 3 minutes. But yeah, it's still good. It's still good. Good updates. This is what I like to see, you know. Valorant just caring so much about these kind of details is what make me like the dev team so much.
Exactly. And the fact that they just exist in the game itself too.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have to find some third-party server to do this. I think that's the best thing. Like, it's a safe environment. You know, sometimes in Counter-Strike, when you hop into a third-party DM, it's like, oh no, what is it going to install on my computer? So the fact that these just exist in the game and the key pops instantly, I think that's great.
Yeah, I mean, I was already happy with Deathmatch pretty much, but then these changes felt a lot better. I will agree that the 9 minutes feel a little bit long, but once you start getting into the rhythm of it and you're, you know, just like popping heads left and right, like those 9 minutes like will breeze by quickly because someone should definitely get the 40 kills before that.
Yeah, for sure. Little bit of quality of life too. We can see it on screen. There's a little bit of a bug fixes, mini map performance increase, but observer player no longer sees player specific HUD indicator. When you're in free cam. So that's a pretty cool upgrade. And that's like a tease to potentially what's coming up, right? Heather? Wink, wink.
Yeah, maybe. There's some good things in here. I think one of my favorite is that if you enable tournament mode in a custom server, there's now 12 slots for observers. So which is great because
that's huge.
Yeah. So what this means is, you know, right now you've got your 2 observers in the game, and well, your tournament admin couldn't be in there previously. So now your admin can be in there, and now, like, in theory, because there's no built-in replay system, and I guess let me explain a bit. In Counter-Strike with GoTV, you can set GoTV on any sort of delay you want. So normally when you're observing, you're in the live game, and then I have a computer sitting next to me that's on a 7-second delay, so that anything that I missed, my co-observer Prius can sit, and I said, oh, I just missed Skadoodle's 3K, can you grab it? And he can grab it, and they can replay that back on the broadcast. That doesn't exist in Valorant yet, but this is a good alternative in that you could, technically a producer could connect 10 virtual observers, so you can use virtual PCs. You don't have to have 10 PCs sitting there. 10 virtual PCs, and they can be spectating each of the 10 players. So then you're kind of recreating demos in a way for the players. So you can record all of those POVs. The producer can play them back on stream. So that opens up a lot of opportunity there. I think some of the other good changes here are that there's now a diffuse progress built into the UI. So previously, as an observer, you had to decide, do I want to show the guy diffusing or the person attacking the diffuser? And sometimes you have to switch between, and it's a little nauseating for the viewer. Now we can just show the most interesting thing, and you still see the diffuse progress. There's a few other good tweaks here, like you can more easily swap between free cam and first person. They remove some of the HUD elements that said like right click to view next player. No, the audience doesn't need to see that. Change the ping colors so that previously like all the pings were red and you don't know which team is pinging. Now the pings match the team color. The crosshairs can match the team color, so it just gives you a better experience as a new viewer to know which team you're watching right now. There's a lot of like good little tweaks in here.
Finally is what I'm gonna say. I feel that, we take it for granted, but at the same time, they still need to work on these kind of things. And I'm glad that it came out in March, after a little bit over 6-7 months, the quality of life / observer tools is greatly increased.
Definitely. Well, it feels like Valorant Esports kind of took off faster maybe than people expected. It was probably the perfect, it's the perfect time too, in that like obviously COVID hit, everyone's home, Counter-Strike events aren't happening, Fortnite events aren't happening. Like it was just the perfect blend for Valorant Esports to just like skyrocket, and they were probably like, oh my gosh, we need to get A, B, C, D, and E into the game. So it seems like they're doing that catch up now, and there's a lot of exciting changes coming up.
And it honestly feels like they took, the shared experience for a lot of players, especially like players that had jumped around from game to game, that went to like Overwatch, that went to Apex, that went to all these other games. And their turnaround on these observer tools and the changes that they've been making for the observers has been so great to see. It took Overwatch forever to like properly give you right tools, and then iterate upon them, and then also make sure that like the viewing experience was good. The same thing with Fortnite. It took them about maybe a year and a half after the game really popped off before they were like, oh, here's our in-game observer tools, which was actually insane. If you've ever got a chance to play around with Fortnite's like spectating client, it's absurd the level of control that it actually provides you. But to see all of this happen within 6 months, it's a real testament to what the dev team has been doing to make sure that as an esports, they're properly supporting it.
Couldn't agree more. Okay, let's talk about Icebox, because that was also part of the update. You guys said you had a little bit of trouble trying to play in it, although you guys actually actively tried, unlike me.
I've cursed. I don't know. I can't tell you. It's got to be 40 or 50 matchmaking games right now, and I'm still not in Icebox. But I played it in Spike Rush, and it's fun to zip around on those zip lines. Definitely a different experience as a native Counter-Strike player. It's a very open map, which is changes probably some of the agents that I would normally pick, but it's exciting to see something different. It gives me some serious like Ruska and Office vibes from CS.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I've had like one opportunity to play on it, but whenever like you hop into a game for the first time, you're just kind of spending most of it like, oh, look at this. Oh, this is pretty. Where the hell am I? Right. So I didn't get a proper opportunity to like really play it. I was after maybe spending 3 or 4 hours in matchmaking trying to find it. I was like, this isn't happening. I tried to find like 10-man in-houses to play on, and I couldn't even find those. So I don't really have much to say about it right now, but it looks interesting for sure.
What I'm thinking about is there might be a bug. Like they supposedly added something where you're not supposed to play the same map too often a couple of patches ago. I don't know if you guys remember that. And potentially maybe they decrease the chances of us getting Icebox until it gets better. Maybe to also it could be a choice, right? To when Ascent came out, I feel that the only map I was playing was Ascent. It was like Ascent 24/7, and at some point I got fed up, not because the map wasn't good, just like, oh, another Ascent, So I'm wondering if they're trying to counter this effect and trying to get us excited into jumping into Icebox, right? Oh, Icebox, finally, let's go, new map, Like,
That's true. True, yeah. When I played with my friends, we're like, yes, we're gonna go, we're about ready to dodge, and we're like, yeah, finally Icebox comes up. All right, we're playing, we're committing more. So yeah, it could be. Maybe it's intentional.
We'll kind of never know unless they tell us, which in the past they've been a little bit transparent about these kind of things. So we'll see. I do want to say that, oh, look, header, that might be why. It says that Icebox will then become available for play in the competitive queue on October 27th. Could that be why we haven't seen You haven't been playing some icebox? Oh,
Mind
we're
blown.
mind blown.
I don't read instructions usually, and I never play unrated. So if I'm gonna play, I'm playing. Yeah, I'm playing competitive. So okay,
I'm on your side.
It all makes sense.
I'm on your side. I would not have known. Okay, scratch all of my crazy theories, guy. We just can't read. Okay. I want to make sure that people in chat ask you the questions too before we go into our hot topic. So if you have any questions, please let us know. I saw Discoroki have a question for Ed earlier, so I'll come back to it after. Jamerson, why don't you take the lead on the hot topic for this week?
Yeah, for sure. We got to talk about it a little bit earlier today, right?
Yeah,
but it's always something that I think people are bringing up, especially during tournaments, like, oh, Overwatch players or Fortnite players or blah, 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 blah. But right now, Heather, why do you think we're seeing so many CSGO players and Overwatch players, like in the last 2 months or so, making the transition on over to Valorant?
I mean, honestly, I feel like it's worth the risk. Like, people know what to expect in Counter-Strike, and without LAN tournaments, I mean, that's what people like thrive on LAN tournaments, and it can be beneficial to be a North American player because it'll be easier to qualify for these international events as a team, and there's no international events right now, so that's not as exciting. And then with Overwatch League, obviously they promised these live studio events and traveling across the country and the world to different cities. That's not happening right now. And the risk versus reward of, just imagine if Valorant does a league like the LCS and you're one of the first pros in the LCS, and the LCS is, there's a stat out there, like it's the third most watched major sports league in North America. Like, sports league, that's everything. That includes the NFL and NBA and all that. Like, that's an incredible stat. So
yeah,
if Riot can repeat what they do with the LCS and League of Legends and recreate it for Valorant, and you can be in one of those coveted 10 spots as a team and a player, that's super exciting. And there's big money in the LCS. So it kind of seems worth the risk right now. And if you want to come back, Overwatch is always going to be there. People put a lot of money into that league. Counter-Strike has proven that it's always going to be there. So if you can cement yourself as one of the best in Valorant, and then this Valorant goes to a franchise league like LCS, well, you're in a really, really good position as a player and as a team.
Yeah, and I think definitely throughout this year, like LCS did a great job of transitioning to the online model and having to do all that stuff. Like you said, third most watched sports ball thing, not sports ball, but behind the NFL, behind the NBA, but like the NFL, NBA, all these other sports leagues had their own difficulties. The NBA ultimately ended up going into a bubble and were able to put on shows that way. Baseball eventually came back, but like, even though like those games were seeing a decrease in viewership over time, while esports was also increasing. And I completely agree. Like, getting in and being involved with Riot, who has been handling the LCS well. I still have issue with what they did with Korea, but like, I'm still overall happy with what they've done with LEC, LCS, and being positioned right now in Valorant seems like the really smart move, because you're already seeing the investment from like the tier 1 organizations coming out. But you're also seeing like some of the signs on the wall for like other games. Like, if you're looking at Overwatch right now, to be a player in Overwatch, they just had this huge like free agent apocalypse where basically half the league is now free agents because the next regular season for season 4 doesn't start until like March or April. And so we're looking at a 4 or 5 month off season for a competitive game. How insane is that? 4 or 5 months.
That's awful. That's actually quite awful. Not that I want to bash on Overwatch, but I want to talk about one thing on that topic. I think you guys both mentioned it, but we need to talk about how CSGO at the moment might be exiling itself to Europe with most of the tournaments at the end of this year, potentially even at the beginning of 2021, are looking to be held on LAN in Europe. do you guys think it's going to open up the door to Valorant NA to even get bigger than it is right now? Because as you both know, Valorant in Europe is kind of slowly getting there, but it's not as kind of hyped in the money isn't there. The org's backing isn't there yet. It's still very, very baby steps over there with reasons. It's a new game. You know, the bubble in NA might be a little bit too much, but I'm enjoying it because I love it. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that in the next couple of months that CSGO Exile is going to hurt NACS, which is going to help NA Valorant?
It's not good for NACS right now. You know, fans follow players generally more than orgs, and that fan base is going to pop to where their favorite player is going. So it's not great for NACS. It's European CS is in great shape. I don't see that ever really going anywhere. But you know, especially from like an NA perspective, like historically, I'd say that European brands, non-endemic brands specifically, are more welcoming to a game like Counter-Strike, while North American brands, not so much. And so we're going to see a lot of these non-endemic brands and organizations invest more into Valorant because it's more of a brand safe game too.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely see more money coming in for Valorant in the US than CS:GO. CS:GO, you know, everyone though says it's gonna die off, but they've been saying that for 20 years. So like I don't think it's going anywhere. Hey, if you're an MTL player, like this is probably the best time for you because there's got to be some teams in NA. So you know, this is your time to really make it. But yeah, it's a bit sad, especially in that like 2018, 2019 were incredible years for NACS, and we're kind of in a slump, but hey, I feel like it always comes back.
Yeah, we like to bash on NA in any game, not just in CS. Let's just say that. Okay, we're running out of time, and I want to make sure that we covered at least 2 questions that we had in chat. One, I'm not gonna name who that person is because they're gonna be so happy. But did the role of VP of Esports Talent at Dignitas came with the sick scooter in your back?
Oh yeah, that's my 1984 Honda Gyro right there. So yeah, it's I call it my Harley, but it's really a Honda Gyro. I get a lot of compliments taking that around town. So, yeah.
I love it. I love it. Okay, I saw another one, Jamerson. Let me just ask this question to Heather before we ask her the fun questions. There's a lot of people that said that Steel was a really good observer, but our Disco Rocky in chat said, unfortunately, he started watching CSGO after the IBP ban, so he never had the chance to see Steel as an observer. Do you think that Steel's way of observing impacted your style, Heather?
Yeah, I took a lot from what he did. He only did a handful of events, but you know, he was one of the first to do it, and one of the first big names, I guess, to do it. So, you know, he is immediately recognized for his work. Obviously, he has the best understanding of game of anyone on this planet. So it was very natural for him to show very exciting things. So certainly I took a lot from what he did. Great, but I've tried to define a few of my own things as well, especially when I worked with E-League, for example. E-League was a Counter-Strike league. They obviously famously did the Boston Major that Cloud9 won. They were they broadcast on mainstream television, which has a lot of people that know nothing about Counter-Strike. So I had to learn a lot there. I worked alongside some Emmy producers, which is absolutely an incredible experience to try to understand, like, how do I don't know if dumb it down's the right word, but I can't think of the right word right now. But you know, how do I make this an experience that people can get the full picture?
More
like they don't just see,
more inclusive.
Yeah, more inclusive of it's kind of what Dota 2 does with the international. If they have their newbie stream,
Yes,
I try to take a
love
lot
that.
from that, and that, like, noobify it so people can. We want to introduce more people to Counter. Like that's the ultimate goal, and that's why we have great replays too. If you want to see the amazing 4K, you can do that. But sometimes we have to make a decision to miss some frags, and that's okay because it's more about like the bigger picture and the narrative. So I've taken a lot from Steel, but I've also tried to tell my own story and take people that produce traditional sports too and implement that into my observing.
Very good answer. I actually didn't know that at all. Good question, Discoraki.
Very
Thank
good
you
question.
so much. Okay, fun question, Jamerson.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many skins right now. There's so many skins in the game, and I think they're absolutely slaying the skin game. But of your of all the knives right now, which is your favorite one currently in the game?
A good question. Well, I grinded until literally the last second of Act 2, but I finally got the Hive Mind knife, which I've been using, and I like the animation that comes out is very oddly satisfying. And I probably pull it out too much, which causes me to die sometimes. But I do like the Hive Mind. I want to buy the Nebula when it comes out again. I probably should have bought it, but that's the fancy one that looks like it's like a galaxy that's moving on the knife. That one's pretty cool.
My favorite has to be the one that I think it was the Killjoy special, the one that has like that changes color on the sides. Damn, I forgot. What it is.
Oh, I know what you're talking
It
about.
has neon on it. It's so
Yep.
cute. Mine is the one I use is the dragon one with the fire. Just because I invested so much money in that one. I'm kind of like waiting for the next one. Jamerson, which one is your favorite knife?
The glitch pop ones, like, so it's I agree. That entire collection is my current favorite one right now, just because I'm trying to relive some of my youth or like try to feel young, and so I like the glitch pop line overall. But the glitch pop knife just looks so sick for me. I've been taking to like a lot more vibrant stuff lately, and that aesthetic has really stood out. So I love that one.
Me too. And Jamerson says that he wants to go back to being young, as if he doesn't look like he's 20. Like,
oh my God, you do. You're not 20? Wow.
Wow. Honestly, you could
jealous.
fool me, Jamerson. You could tell me I'm so young. I don't know what CPL is. I'd be like, of course, you're a Zoomer. You have those genes. You're lucky. Yeah. So it was quite awesome to have you, Heather, today. Why don't you give us a little bit of a tease of what's coming up for you and where can we follow you?
Well, I'm always keeping busy. I've got some Valorant observing coming up. I've got some Counter-Strike observing coming up. I'm doing awesome things at Dignitas with our FEE, which is a female-focused initiative. Yeah, there's a lot. I'm just going to be grinding and matchmaking. I play solo queue. I don't have anyone that plays, so if anyone wants to play with me, hit me up. And yeah, that's what I'll be up to.
Thank you so much, guys. We do this every other week. We join and record this podcast. Today's guest was amazing. She had way more knowledge than me into Valorant. She should actually be hosting the shows. Do you want to swap, Heather? I'll be the guest.
Maybe, no, you're fantastic. You're fantastic.
Jamerson, any last word for today?
Yeah, it was awesome actually getting to hear more about observing, because I've worked in it in the past, and it's definitely a difficult job. It's much harder than people actually expect, and so thank you so much for your insight, Heather.
Of course, I'm happy to talk about it.
If you guys have any ideas or guests that you want to see or topics we should talk about, let us know either on social or in the chat. You can DM or at any one of us or at GiantSlayerVAL. Guys, this was our episode number 4. Times fly so fast of running it back, and we'll be back in 2 weeks. And stay tuned for more teas and for more Valorant news on our social. Bye, everyone.